So when I was looking into this movie, I realized that there might be a sequel at some point. At least in 2021, the possibility of one was announced, so fingers crossed. Crawl was released in 2019, and I did see this in theaters with my mom. The movie was directed by Alexandre Aja, who I have a love-hate relationship with, and the writers are Michael and Sean Rasmussen, and the stars are Kaya Scodelario and Barry Pepper. It was produced by Sam Raimi, and I only mentioned that because it's Sam Raimi. Trigger warning for death of animals. Haley Keller is a swimmer at the University of Florida. When we meet her, she is not finishing in good time during practice. It's obvious that fact concerns her and upsets her, almost as much as her sister calling her to let her know that their father isn't answering her calls. This probably wouldn't be as urgent if it wasn't for the Category 5 hurricane, called Wendy, that is heading right at them as they speak. Hurricane Wendy looks as though it's going to be really bad, and her father's condo is right in the path of the storm. Despite her sister's plea, Haley decides she's going to check up on their father. It's pretty much the only thing that she can think to do in this situation. The first place that she goes is her father's condo. The only being that is in the house is her father's dog, Sugar, and this dog had me so stressed out this entire movie. Since her father isn't there, Haley has to think for a second about where her father could have been. It takes her a second, but she decides to head to the home her family had once been in, the last place the four of them were together. Her sister's ex-boyfriend, Wayne, stops her and lets her know that the roads are closed. He promises that he'll go to the house and check it out, but that she can't go there herself. She decides to ignore him entirely and goes around the blockade, and honestly, if she hadn't done that, her father probably would have been dead by the time Wayne and his partner had gotten there. It's a good thing that she brought Sugar with her, or she would have completely missed out on going to this crawl space. Sugar is nervously barking into the darkness, and Haley decides that it's probably a good idea for her to go down there, but she does not seem thrilled about it. The crawl space is flooded and a little gross, but when she gets down there, she can hear her father's radio repeating warnings about the storm, and when she discovers him, he is unconscious behind some pipes with what looks like a pretty bad wound on his shoulder. Haley starts to drag him out from underneath the pipes, and that's when she learns why he is where he was. It is there that there are two large alligators running around in the crawl space with them. As far as apex predators go, that's a pretty good one, so it seems like a good idea to go back to where her father was hiding. But this is not the location one wants to be when there is a flood incoming. The apex predator comment is apparently something that her father used when she was younger, when he was her swimming coach. Except now that they're actual apex predators, they will eat her. When her father wakes up, he admits that he was not willing to let go of the family home, and that the person that was bidding on the house fell through at the last moment. They're also kind of screwed because no one is going to come looking for them in the storm. They either figure out a way to get out of the crawl space, or they're going to drown as the water continues to rise around them. So Haley decides she needs to find a way out of there, and avoid the alligators. There isn't a ton of water at this point, but the alligators are not blind, so she ends up being bitten, giving herself a tourniquet so that she doesn't have to deal with bleeding out in the gross water. Haley gets to the point where she can see across the street to a gas station. There are 3 people over there trying to steal the ATM. Although she does try to get their attention and nearly succeeds, the alligators get to them first, so it seems though the 2 that they have in the crawl space with them are not the end of the hell. She is feeling helpless at this point, even more so after her father directs her to where the pipes go up into the house, because there is a hatch there, but no one expected to need to come up from the crawl space, so there are boxes on top of it to prevent them from getting out. And as much as Sugar is bargaining for them, she isn't much help either. Wayne arrives, and I'm assuming it's because Haley hasn't come back, but I'm also going to point out the fact that if he had arrived at the time that he did without Haley's intervention, her dad definitely would have been dead. Wayne and his cop friends seem like their best chance to get out, and unfortunately for Wayne, he doesn't do a whole lot of listening to Haley repeatedly telling him not to come down there. He doesn't listen, so he ends up being attacked by one of the alligators. His partner, who didn't even get into the house, also ends up being attacked. I do appreciate that all of their possible lifelines get murdered. It forces them to have to find a way out for themselves, which is honestly just more interesting. Immediately, Haley feels terrible because she couldn't save them, but it's kind of a compounding of guilt. She feels guilty that she couldn't save Wayne. She also feels guilty that her father is at the house, because she thinks that if it wasn't for her, there wouldn't be a divorce, if he wasn't so focused on getting her to be the best swimmer. He says that her and her sister were the reason that they stayed together as long as they did, and that the relationship had been over for a while now. Her father starts to bang on the pipes in an attempt to try and keep the alligator's attention away from his daughter. And to his credit, he does take out one of the alligators, but it's more about Haley trying to swim through the storm drain. It's while she's getting through there that she finds a nest of eggs. That's not a great sign for them due to how protective alligators can be of their babies. I think it's Wayne's body that she comes across, but she reaches out to grab his holster, and that's right when the mother pops up, biting onto her arm, but in a way that makes it a lot easier for Haley to shoot the gun into the body. I'm pretty sure that Haley should have lost her arm at this point, but fine, she is able to get out of there and swim to the surface. Her father is freaking out while also drowning a little bit. The good news is that she's able to get him before he's gone. There were a few times in this movie that I thought her father was going to die, and it made sense, with the story that's being told. There are a few conversations that feel as though they're wrapping up his life and their relationship, but he makes it. Haley, her father, and Sugar all make it. I'm just gonna say it right now. Their plan is to attempt to get to the boat that the thieves had been using. It's like their only way to get out. Her father is carrying Sugar as they head in the direction of the boat. They're trying to move a little bit more freely due to the heavy rain. The alligators can't detect them quite as easily, which would have been great if the eye of the storm didn't end up right above them. An alarm can be heard in the distance telling them that the levees have broken, so they need to get to the boat so they don't get washed away and likely drown. Haley gives the splashiest swim that I've ever seen, but she does manage to get to the boat before becoming a snack. All three of them get in the boat at the right time as the water rushes and slams them back to the family home, but hey, at least they're not in the crawl space anymore. Her father has been given the task of making sure Sugar is alive. Haley is trying to get to the radio so that she can get help, something that she does manage to do even as alligators start to move further into the house. Her father gets his arm bitten off by an alligator, which had to happen at some point. It obviously wasn't going to happen to Haley because that would make swimming a lot more difficult. They are heading up, trying to get onto the roof. It's the highest part of the house and the only hope they have to being seen by anyone that might be in the area. There's no real promise that anyone is going to come, but they need to believe that they have a chance. There are two good interactions with Haley and an alligator. One has her baiting one into rushing her while she's in the shower so that she can lock it inside. Obviously, the alligators are all CGI, but they are pretty good. They definitely had the movements down of the actual animals, which I thought was kind of impressive. The other alligator breaks through the glass and attempts to do a death roll, which I think that's the first time it attempts, or any alligator attempts. Anyway, it's cool. She's able to use a flare to cause it to explode in the animal's eye, which forces it to let her go. After such a battle, the three family members are on the roof of the house. They're exhausted, it's pouring, and it doesn't feel as though this is ever going to end. But then her father hears the sound of a helicopter. This movie had me stressed. It's exactly the kind of movie that I wanted to see. It's tense, there are alligators everywhere, and the story has a surprising amount of heart in it. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Amanda. This has been Horror Historian. I hope you enjoyed this review. Next week I will be doing Millennium Actress, and at the very end of this month, I will be doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, so get started watching now. Would I survive this movie? No. Well, first of all, I've only been to Florida once, and I have no intention of going to Florida in the middle of hurricane season, and I'm done if there's an alligator. I'm not a fast swimmer.